Oh boy. Rolling Stone says Trump got a free CyberTruck from streamer Adin Ross. Is that legal? And it's not just Rolling Stone. Take a look at this. The New York Times says Adin Ross gives Trump a Cybertruck, a Rolex, and access to a heavily male audience. In this story, they basically say he may be engaged in, let me see, the campaign, where is it? Streaming audience. Here we go. They say all those price tags exceed the federal limit on individual campaign contributions, making Ross's show of generosity a potential campaign finance violation. Oh, interesting. I'm gonna do a quick Google search while we're here for Jamie Raskin and Civil War and see if anything comes up in the news. Why, heavens to Betsy, there's not. You've got the Federalist. We expect it from the Federalist. They'll call this stuff out. But when you Google search comments from Jamie Raskin about saying he wants Civil War conditions and will use the weight of government to block Donald Trump if he actually wins, well, the Federalist wrote about it. Where's anybody else? Nowhere to be found. But Adin Ross. So here's what happens. Adin Ross is a prominent Gen Z streamer. He got 500,000. I don't know how Kick works, if it's concurrent streamers or total views. 500,000 still. Hefty number. And what happens? They say, is this legal? Well, let's read the New York Times, because this is big. This is Donald Trump getting access to a largely young male audience. What do you give a former president who has everything? Adin Ross, an internet celebrity known for stirring controversy, answered that question with a gold Rolex watch and a customized Tesla Cybertruck, both of which he presented to Donald J. Trump during an interview that was live streamed on Monday afternoon. I think it's incredible, said Mr. Trump as he eyeballed the electric vehicle, which was parked in the Porte-Cochere, is that how you pronounce it? I don't know, of Mar-a-Lago, his private club and residence in Florida. The car, closely associated with Trump supporting chief executive of Tesla, Elon Musk, and subject of an ongoing culture war, what does that mean, has been in short supply since Tesla began selling it in the late 2023. This one, which Mr. Ross drove to his interview, was festooned in red, white, and blue with Mr. Trump's campaign slogan, Make America Great Again, emblazoned on the hood. On each side was the now ubiquitous photo of Republican presidential nominee, fist raised defiantly, taken seconds after the attempt on his life at a campaign rally last month. That's right. Smash that like button, ladies and gentlemen. One like means one fight, fight, fight. That's what Donald Trump said. I love how they're like, Donald Trump's a moron for standing up. He could have got shot again. But look what it did for him. So call him a moron. I say, taking a risk. You call it what you want. Before a streaming audience that at times topped 500,000 people, Mr. Trump then climbed into the Cybertruck and along with Mr. Ross listened to the songs from a custom playlist prepared for the occasion. Who doesn't like the Beach Boys, Mr. Trump asked. He was equally admiring the watch. Wow, that's so nice, he chirped. Per Tesla's website, a base model Cybertruck has a sticker price of $60,990, with high-end trims topping $100,000. Customized wrap, the printed vinyl sticker covering every exterior surface of the vehicle, starts around $4,000. Rolex watches typically start at $5,000. All of those price tags far exceed the federal limit on individual campaign contributions, which is $3,300 per election cycle. In cash or in kind, making Mr. Ross' show of generosity a potential campaign finance violation. And there you go. Jamie Raskin has a viral video right now. I'm going to play it for you because I'm trying to juxtapose these two scenarios where Jamie Raskin basically admits to conspiring to block Donald Trump's legal election victory, which is like he's basically telling us he wants an insurrection. Hey, they said January 6th was an insurrection. He's calling for a Democrat January 6th. Listen to what he says.
What can be put into the Constitution can slip away from you very quickly. And the greatest example going on right now before our very eyes is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which they're just disappearing with a magic wand, as if it doesn't exist, even though it could not be clearer what it's stating. And so, they want to kick it to Congress, so it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025, to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody and Civil War conditions, all because the 9 justices, not all of them, but...
I want you to pause real quick before we play the rest of this clip. Bodyguards for everyone and Civil War conditions. This man, and this video is from February, The video got only about 7,500 views, so nobody noticed it. It was at a Politics and Prose event. I guess it was in D.C. I'm not entirely sure. What he is saying is that if Donald Trump wins, they will use physical force in violation of the law. The Supreme Court already ruled. We got to break this down, okay? The Supreme Court said you can't disqualify him. The 14th Amendment doesn't apply here. He is saying, so what? We will get bodyguards for everyone. We will block Trump on January 6th, and we will have civil war conditions. He's quite literally saying, in defiance of Supreme Court orders, in defiance of the law and the Constitution, because he believes he's right, they will enact the use of force against Donald Trump. This is a public declaration of the intent to commit an insurrection, and especially by their own definition, right?
Justices who have not many cases to look at every year, not that much work to do, a huge staff, great protection, simply do not want to do their job and interpret what the great 14th Amendment means. And I'm glad that Sherilyn's creating her new center so we can bring that.
Absolutely amazing to see. Now, let's pop back over to the New York Times. When I Google searched this, doesn't come up. There's an article from the New York Times with Jamie Raskin in it from May 20th. Nothing. Raskin's revolution. Raskin plans an insurrection against Trump. That's must read Alaska. But where's the mainstream media to call out what is clearly illegal activity? But Adin Ross did a live stream where he said he was gifting Trump a vehicle and maybe a campaign finance violation. Okay, fair point. Maybe. But priorities much? I would expect that, quote, I would expect that once Trump gets off the live stream and talks to his lawyers, he'll be advised that he can't accept these gifts and will have to turn them down or give them to charity, said Brendan Fisher, a campaign finance expert who is deputy executive director at Documented, a watchdog group. He added, what other conclusion can you come to other than that this is an illegal and excessive campaign contribution? Carolyn Levitt, a Trump spokeswoman, said in a statement that our campaign will submit an advisory opinion to the FEC to seek guidance on how to handle these gifts, referring to the FEC. Regardless, the more crucial gift the president got by sitting for the interview may well be access to the millions of young, mostly male and right-leaning potential voters who follow Mr. Ross on social media. Ross, 23, rose to fame by streaming himself playing video games. He routinely draws 150,000 or more simultaneous viewers on those streams, which can run for 5 or more hours at a time. And look at me sitting here on YouTube with only 32,000. Adin Ross is a superstar. And this is what he's helping Donald Trump. Gen Z dudes like Trump. 5 or more hours at a time. Wow. I only do 2. But he has provoked some backlash over the guests he has welcomed in the stream, like Andrew Tate. We know Andrew Tate is. He's also given airtime to Nick Fuentes. Yes, so what? An avowed white supremacist. I don't think Nick Fuentes vows himself as a white supremacist. And he's also hosted neo-Nazis wearing swastika emblems. I don't know about anything about that. He was sanctioned by Twitch for making homophobic statements, blah, blah, blah. Now he hosts his stream on Kick. But he remains enormously popular with a testosterone-heavy demographic that Mr. Trump sees as critical to his re-election chances. The key is getting those men to the voting booth. And so Mr. Trump in June sat for an interview with Logan Paul, a professional wrestler, energy drink entrepreneur, and influencer with more than 50 million social media followers, including 27 million on Instagram alone. Last week, Mr. Trump posted 2 videos of Jake Paul. I got to tell you, I'm a big Logan Paul fan. I follow these guys. I mean, they're younger than me. They go for a younger audience. And I started seeing some clips about Logan Paul talking about business. And I was like, I like this guy. Logan Paul, Jake Paul's sillier. I don't know if it's more of a persona act thing that they do for their business. Most people tell you like Jake Paul is kind of more hated than Logan. All I can tell you is Logan is based. Political or whatever. I don't know if he's voting for Trump. I'm assuming he is. But I've heard him talk about business, hard work, how he gets things done. And I tremendously respect him for this. There's a great video where like someone sneaks in and tries to get a job and Logan Paul gives him this talk. And I'm like, this Logan Paul dude knows what hard work means. And that's where he's at. And I respect that. They're going to say he's also twice granted interviews to the Nelk Boys, a group of Canadian pranksters famous on YouTube. On Friday, the Nelk Boys released an hour-long podcast with J.D. Vance, Trump's running mate. So far has logged 1.2 million views. Mr. Adin proved to be a decidedly non-confrontational interlocutor for Mr. Trump Over nearly 90 minutes, he gave Mr. Trump space to repeatedly demean and insult Harris and Biden and to boast or complain however he saw fit. Adin also openly entreated his audience to vote for the Republican and endorse an endorsement so enthusiastic that it appeared to surprise even Mr. Trump. Trump said he had been interviewed many times by people who really do like me, but they wouldn't do what you just did. They wouldn't say vote for him. I think it's great that you can say something like that. I think I said something like that. I didn't say in the interview I did with Trump, go vote for Trump. I said something like, I hope you win. And I genuinely mean it. I'm going to be completely honest with all of you guys. And then we'll talk about the Jamie Raskin stuff and the paradox in the media and where we actually may be going. If I had my choice of who would be the presidential candidate, if I could snap my fingers and make a president, I'd probably pick Dave Smith. I just don't think Dave Smith could ever actually win the presidency. He's certainly the best the libertarians had to offer. But the thing about Dave Smith and the libertarians, the Mises Caucus libertarians, and versus Donald Trump, Trump is realistic. We are dealing with a machine that has been built over hundreds of years that you simply can't just knock down overnight. And there are many people and many libertarians who think the only path to solving this is to have, say, someone like Dave Smith as president, a libertarian who's going to be like, we're gutting everything and shutting it down. You can't do that. No, I mean, literally, it can't be done. Trump tried with Schedule F. He's going to try again. You can't just overnight shut things down because there's a legal process, there's courts, there's lawsuits. It takes a long time to do. So my view is this. I'm a bit of a revolutionary in a certain respect. And what I mean by that is I want radical change for the betterment of this country, restoration of constitutional principles to be upheld as they're supposed to be. I think the family is the most important structure of governance in this country. And we need to default to strong family structures. A lot of these things, right? How do we get there? You're not going to get there with pie in the sky visions of trying to elect someone who promises to just shut government down overnight. It's not going to happen. You need strong, you need aggressive change, but it has to be, it's going to be gradual. Like I said, imagine someone building a castle over hundreds of years. It is massive. It is made of stone. Now, it can be knocked down, but there's still people inside it. Your food stores are still there. And while you want it to change, it's going to have to be someone who demands radical change, who's willing to do it and has the tools to do it, but it's not going to be instant overnight. That's why I think Trump makes the most sense right now. But if Dave Smith really could win, not that he wants to be president anyway, but someone like him or Ron Paul or Rand Paul or even Thomas Massie, I think they do an infinitely better job. Actually, I'd say this. Thomas Massie is probably the better choice. Not that I think he wants to be president, but I disagree with him on a lot of things. And I think that's actually important, that I think he recognizes there's not going to be an immediate, wrecking ball solution to a lot of these problems, though he would be extremely aggressive in that scenario. So let's take it to where we are now with this Jamie Raskin stuff, where he's basically saying we need civil war conditions. All right. Well, we have a story here from MSN. U.S. civil war concerns rise, according to study. We have this from CBS News. They say attempted assassination of Donald Trump spurred a huge spike in calls for violence and civil war online. I think you are wrong, ma'am. Anna Schechter, who writes the story. I think the reality is, after the attempt on Donald Trump's life, people are terrified a civil war might actually happen. But this is the dirty game the dirty smear merchants like to play. They say Tim Pool wants civil war, despite me saying you are wrong. We bring people on Timcast IRL who say we should have a peaceful divorce. And I'm like, no, we shouldn't. You do not want a national divorce. Now, again, in context with the Adin Ross story, I'm just saying, it's kind of interesting that CBS is saying we're getting a huge call for threats of violence. You've got this story from NBC News. Virginia man charged with threatening to kill Kamala Harris. Not okay at all. We should redouble her security, Joe Biden's security. They should be under the same. They should have the highest degree of security protocol. We do not want harm to befall any of these politicians right now, because that is a catalyst for disaster. But I will stress, where's the concern about what Jamie Raskin said in that video among anyone in the corporate press? But they are certainly outraged about Adin Ross. This is the problem with this country. that we're facing right now. Here's my concern. My concern is that we're actually heading towards some kind of civil war. We are in a period of civil strife. It doesn't mean civil war is guaranteed, but it is the precursor. I'm hoping a Donald Trump presidency is marginally good. He's not going to be a dictator. He's not going to roll in the tanks. There's not going to be a big breakdown and I don't know, camps and trucks and trains. That's a hyperbole from Democrats. They're losing their minds. Now, it'll be marginally good. I hope he brings some accountability. I hope Democrats face some criminal accountability for the illegal things they've done, notably with Russiagate, the Burisma scandal, and things like that, which have since gone unanswered in many ways. And, you've got the confidential documents with Joe Biden. They'll probably drop that. And that's fine, too. I think it's silly that they're bringing up this against anybody, especially Trump. I don't think you're going to get absolute chaos. What we do not want to see is a national divorce or a breakdown. Now, in a time when you have heightened violence against Donald Trump, it is extremely inappropriate for Jamie Raskin to be saying these things. Now, understand that I know he said it 5 months ago. We should take what he said very seriously and weigh that against, is this type of talk a contributing factor in why someone would try to take the life of Donald Trump? And then, again, the reason why I bring this up is the corporate press doesn't care. The far left can burn, loot, and murder. And the media just says peaceful protesters, not an issue. You take a look at what's going on in the UK right now. You've got the Keir Starmer, the prime minister. You got the video from during George Floyd where it's like, we are all so upset about what happened to George Floyd. And then now you've got a stabbing of 3 young girls and people are rioting. And he's like, we will have a standing army hunt you down. That's why we may be headed for national divorce or otherwise. But the game they play is the smear merchants. This is what they play. They say that you're calling for civil war by simply warning we may be on that track. So here's my fear. We were talking about this. Nick Freitas was on last night. That dude's amazing, by the way. Awesome show. We were talking about what could possibly happen. Someone asked, in the event there is some kind of civil war, what happens to our bases overseas? Interesting point. I'll tell you what I think happens. I think they get absorbed by the countries they're in. Now, a lot of people will say, absurd, it'll never happen. U.S. troops wouldn't align with South Korea or Germany or wherever they are. Yeah, they will. And I'll give you the scenario. So imagine this. Donald Trump wins. He wins in Congress. He wins, the Republicans win Congress. They narrowly win the Senate, and Trump wins the presidency. You've got a trifecta. Congress, the executive branch, and the Supreme Court are now conservative. Democrat states start saying, no way. You're illegitimate under the 14th Amendment, Section 3, like Jamie Raskin said. Democrats in Congress obstruct and block the certification process, as they often do. Fail. They go to their states. Their governors say this. We tried to stop Trump, who's in violation of the Constitution. The Supreme Court is illegitimate. They're propping him up and ignoring plainly what the Constitution says under Amendment 14, Section 3. So we will defy his rulings, his executive orders, his rules. We will defy Congress. Trump begins to make deportations, but California says no. Trump then invokes the Insurrection Act to enforce the law. Take a look at what's going on with Texas. Biden sends CBP. Texas State Guard comes out and blocks them. Imagine something like that happening where Trump says, you will not block federal law enforcement. We're here to enforce federal law. There are cartels, there's smugglers, there's murderers, there's child traffickers, and California says no. Imagine that breakdown starts to happen. I don't think there's a strong possibility of it, honestly. But in the event that it does, what happens to our bases overseas? If there ever comes a point where blue states basically cut off taxes to the federal government, Democrats do a tax protest and stop paying because, or Republicans too, and the country does fall into some kind of conflict, there is this potentiality. Should an actual civil war happen, and it's not going to be state versus state, it's going to be urban versus rural like actual civil wars usually are, not like the American Civil War in 1861. What happens to South Korean military base? If these troops that are there, and they have families living there on base housing, and one day their paychecks stop, the chain of command is in disarray, they don't know who's in charge, Trump's the president, but the left is not paying. They're defying, and the country is in conflict. South Korea is facing an existential crisis. China will move in with North Korea to try and reclaim the entirety of the peninsula. So South Korea tells the military bases, we need supplies and we need you. These countries, should the U.S. actually fall into a civil war with confusion and no one knows who's in charge, our foreign military bases still need funding, and where's it going to come from? So I think there's a strong possibility, say a base in Germany, the German government says, we will subsidize you to keep you here and start paying 100% of the cost to keep U.S. troops there. Troops are probably still aligned with the U.S. government or whatever, but there's no real communication. So it will be mostly under the command and cooperation with the local government where they are. Long story short. But again, I don't think it's very probable. I don't know. I do know that this Joe Rogan clip is actually hilarious. He's like, he's like, we're just about to get into World War III. And he's like, yikes, we got over COVID. It's time for World War III. And that's where I think we're going. I think with Donald Trump, the deep state will go nuclear. I think with Kamala Harris, the deep state will go nuclear in the other direction. Should Trump win, I see blue states cranking it up to 11. And the actual potential for civil war, should there be a potential for it, is only with a Trump victory. Depends on what Trump will do. I'll put it this way. Look what happens when Trump wins in 2016. They accuse him of being a traitor to his country and try to destroy his life and actually impeach and arrest him. Look what happens when Joe Biden wins. Republicans complain on the internet. If Kamala Harris wins with Waltz, you will likely see an escalation of war and conflict around the world. World War III, going nuclear, as it were. If Donald Trump wins, they'll be going nuclear, but at home. Either way, there is a powder keg and a potentiality for civil war and World War III. Not so likely. I think the likely scenario is Donald Trump wins, and I'm not saying great likelihood. Right now, I think we have a marginal percentage above chance that Trump wins, enacts some reforms. Some people get arrested. There's bickering from Democrats. They have their committees or whatever. Donald Trump gives us a marginally okay presidency. That's really it. I think that's the most likely scenario. There is still the possibility that Kamala Harris wins because Democrats are a cult. Sorry, but it's just reality. They're willing to vote for a person and give money to a person with no campaign positions at all. Now that's a cult. You want to talk about Trump v. DeSantis, and we'll talk about who is better fit for the job, decorum, personality, age, policy, accomplishments. They're plans. That makes sense. Vivek Ramaswamy, I understand the arguments. Then you look at Kamala Harris, she got nothing. Nothing. And people are dumping money on her. Or it's all rigged, and it's all fake. We'll see. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. The next segment, of course, will be Unfunny Joe Rogan. Unfunny? Joe Rogan's like one of the funniest comedians on the planet. So we'll talk about that from his new special, Burn the Boats. And stick around for those that are watching live. We will go to Super Chats. But everyone else, follow me on X at Timcast. Follow me on Instagram as well at Timcast. And we will see you all at 4 in the next segment.